go back to the alternative run where Martin Batty leads David Waterworth. You can see David with the Viper-powered S15 getting up nice and close as they enter Seat curve. Another brilliant shot there in car of David, sawing at the wheel, and you can see Martin leading David as they go into that final corner. Very, very close between the two drivers. This is going to be a difficult one. Was David deemed to be off track there?
86 against Simon Perry in the Nissan Skyline. Simon Perry running a very strange angle there as Frederick Asbo sticks to the qualifying lines that the judges wanted to see, opening up that smoke screen, but Simon Perry just tucks it in nicely onto that GT86 all the way around that final bend. The boot release there just opening on that GT86 around that final bend, but look.
Okay, moving on to Pro Class now for battle for third and fourth is Christian Lewis versus Alex Law. So into the first corner they go, both looking very fast. Alex Law with a bit more speed there coming into the first corner, catching him up, just letting off the power a little bit, just to allow him to back off the power, but keep the drift in, and really good. But Christian Lewis spins, and Alex
Perry, one of these drivers looking for a place in the final. Simon Perry as the lead car in the pink R33 Skyline. David Waterworth's going to try and hunt him down now in the V10 Viper-powered S15. Simon Perry using all of his experience and skill to keep that R33 Skyline out in front and pulling a fantastic gap from David Waterworth to surprise the judges. Bagsy on the limiter there, suffering from a gearbox issue. Only first and second gear available here at Teesside for Steve in that 180SX. Meanwhile, Shane Lynch is putting in a fantastic chase run, trying to put pressure on Bagsy to make a mistake. But Bagsy, ever so calm, puts it into that final corner. Just look how close Shane Lynch is in that V8 S15. Great chase run. Circuit. The speeds have increased and we're straight into our semi-finals. We see Marcin Mucha in the Toyota Supra as the chase car, and Driftworks Richard Grindrod in his V8 powered BMW, the lead car. Richard Grindrod's been driving fantastic all day and he's putting in a great run here too, having pulled a healthy gap from Marcin Mucha. Marcin's trying to close that up on the final corner, but unfortunately I suspect the judges will be giving that advantage to Richard. Now becomes the chase car. Mike Marshall in the E36 flicks it in there, but Phil Morrison is going to tuck in just on the rear quarter. Great angle as Mike Marshall puts up the smoke screen. Phil's going to stay nice and close so that he can see exactly where he is going, and all he needs to do is keep it planted to try and take a place in the final. On Pete Green into making an error, but Pete Green is going into this first corner with good proximity against Matt Tilliard. Matt Tilliard not putting a foot wrong though as he goes round that hairpin corner, pushing it down the hill. Both drivers heading into the steep gradient of the challenging Liddon Hill circuit as they go round this final corner, and it's a good run from both drivers, and obviously they're gaining an advantage, classed as a 10-0 advantage to Shane O'Sullivan. They go into this second run with Shane O'Sullivan the lead car, and he's going to try and pull a gap now from Phil Morrison. Phil Morrison is going to do everything he can in the DW86 to try and claw back an advantage and put pressure on Shane O'Sullivan to make a mistake, but Shane O'Sullivan unlikely to make a mistake as he goes across.
Pro driver in the profile, and Martin Batty, like a scalded cat, away from the drag cone into that first corner. Martin has obviously fought his way through the battles to make his way to the final, and ultra consistent Martin Batty there, perfectly on the line, which the judges have asked for during the briefings, and showing a clean pair of heels there to Ollie Elmore, who's trying his utmost to...
Paul Smith. So into the first corner they go. We did see Frederick Asbo put foot to the floor all the way from the start line there. That caught Paul Smith snoozing a little bit, but obviously the judges did say that they had to drive to that drag cone and then it was hell for leather, but Frederick Asbo did put his foot down from the start, creating that huge gap, but Paul Smith stuck to the two. They're going to switch around. Matt Carter's looking very fast at the moment. Steve Moore just struggling to keep up, creating a bit of a gap there coming down the hill. You could see Matt Carter how early his transition was compared to Steve Moore, and Steve Moore just sending a little bit too wide. He will be marked down by the judges from that, and that gives Matt Carter progression into the semi-finals.
David Waterworth to chase him down. Great initiation from Christian Lewis, but David Waterworth showing good angle, but too early into the apex on that first corner. Christian needs to hold it round the hairpin and push it down that hill. This could be anyone's, ladies and gentlemen. Into that final corner, David Warwick closing the gap on Christian Lewis with some good angle. As they pass those cones, they both flick it into that first corner. A straight from Paul Cheshire, and 2 wheels off the circuit. Paul has pretty much thrown this run away. Barry Hennessy just needs to keep that car on the track as he makes it around the middle section. Great clip there showing Paul Cheshire trying to claw it back, trying to catch up with Barry as they make it into that final corner. Barry leads that run with a great advantage after Paul Cheshire's mistake. Daniel Hall has perhaps tried to preserve the engine in order to go up against Marcin Mucha in this third place battle, and backing off there, Marcin Mucha is just going to drift round Daniel Hall. This could be an easy win for Marcin Mucha. He could be securing himself that third place on the podium already. We'll have to wait and see what Daniel Hall does. Is he going to make his way back round? And no, Daniel Hall leaves the circuit, retiring that car, and as a result it seems it'll be an easy. It's going to be Phil Morrison versus Mike Marshall. This is for a place in the final. Phil Morrison in the Driftworks R32 going up against Mike Marshall in the E36 Touring powered by a 2JZ engine. Mike Marshall having put some great runs in here, but Phil Morrison is extending that lead with good angle and good speed as he went down that hill. As Pete Green returning to the BDC in his E30 V8 powered BMW leads against Matt Tilliard, but Matt Tilliard, the local boy, heads into the gravel, allowing Pete Green to gain a huge advantage as he makes his way round the hairpin corner, down the hill and into the final corner with a clear advantage from the first run. And he can to try and put a stop to that as he flicks it into the first corner. He's going to open the smoke taps in that V10 Viper powered S15. Shane O'Sullivan struggling to see where he's going, running slightly wide. Will it outweigh that advantage from the first run though? As they go round that final corner and across the finish line, it could be anyone's, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have to wait and see.
This time Steve will lead the way from Matt as they come down third, fourth gear even in these conditions, and the drivers both very equal as they come round Seat Curve. You can see the cars are almost like they're on tiptoes, both drivers using almost identical line. You can see Steve there using the handbrake to lock up the back of that car to slow down enough to get round Scotsman's. And Steve.
And the last of the top 8 battles, we see Frederick Asbo getting absolutely smashed into the side there by Steve Evans. Steve Evans just could not get the grip down, going a little bit too committed into that first corner, smashing into the side of that GT86 of Frederick Asbo from Team Speed Hunters. I can only imagine Frederick Asbo isn't very happy about that. You can see the damage there from Steve.
Battle. Now it's going to come down to battle number 2. This is where they switch around. Dan Moorhead's going to take the lead car, James Fuller in the second car. So James Fuller with an early initiation again. He is all over Dan Moorhead in that S14 Nissan as they make their way down the hill and round the last corner. James Fuller was all over Dan Moorhead there, giving him the progression.
Smith, as he's so frankly been nicknamed, into that first corner. Kieran struggling a little bit there to try and keep the angle on the S15 as he goes round into that final hairpin. Paul Smith closing the gap and showing great car controls. He almost nudges the camera, having to back off slightly, and Kieran struggling a little bit to keep that drift going. So a good run from both drivers on the first run. It's going to come down to this one. The judges will be looking for the smallest of mistakes, and Wayne Kiba is absolutely nailing that saw around that first corner. Jack Shanahan is going to do everything he can to try and close the gap. Jack Shanahan put in a flawless first run though, and he may take that advantage and move through. So first up, we're going to see Richard Grindrod in the BMW E36 going up against Chris Hawkins in his 180SX. Chris rubs the clipping point and knocks off the bumper and nudges Richard as he goes into that first corner, spinning him around. He's going to get penalised for that by the judges. Both drivers okay though, and they're going to make their way back round to the start line as they initiate their drift once again, just to put on a performance for the crowd.
And as you can see, the weather conditions certainly deteriorated in this top 8 battle. We've got current champion Mike Marshall from Team M&M with Martin Batty, who we've seen win the Pro Class early on, and you can see the conditions extremely slippy as they come down the hill. Martin Batty is absolutely on it with that Street Drift Imports S15. Oh, and Mike Marshall spins the E36 Tourer as he comes round Scotsman.
So he had everything to play for this round, but now it is time to switch around, and Shane Lynch is going to become the lead car now. Can Matt Carter put it as close to Shane Lynch as possible? Seems though he's got everything to play for, but Shane Lynch is using all the power of that twin turbo V8 in that S15 to power it round that last bend, knowing he's got that number 3 position in the bag.
Run. Chris Hawkins is flat out into that first corner, but Richard's not going to give him any room, and he's going to pull it tight now as he takes a tighter line through that clipping point. Both drivers now going to head down the hill as Chris opens the smoke screen. Richard's going to try and follow through that smoke as he just rides the curb through that final corner.